Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Slipstream Entrepreneurs Podcast. My name is Rich Wharton, and I'm delighted to introduce to you my co-host, Hannah Brooks. Hannah, welcome.
Thank you. Finally good to be here.
Absolutely. I think it's been the best part of a week and a half talking about running this podcast, and now we're here recording. How does it feel for you?
I'm excited, nervous. I just said that to you before we started recording, but yeah, it's time to do it. It's time.
Absolutely. We've just talked about taking imperfect action in recording this podcast, and just quickly before we get introducing, you introducing yourself to us, Hannah. But imperfect action, what does that mean to you?
Getting to where you want to be through a process, I think, for me. So I'm never going to be perfect when I start doing something. I've tried, but it doesn't work. So make those mistakes because they're important. You need to learn from them. So yeah, I would say that's what that means. Yeah.
No, absolutely. So obviously this is our first episode, which is really, really exciting in itself. First of many, many, many podcast episode, which is going to be absolutely sensational. We're going to have some fantastic guests. We're going to have some incredible value for our listeners. But to kick things off, tell us about number one. Tell us about you. Tell us about your story, your background, where you are, what you want to do, where you want to go. Give it all to us.
Okay, well, where do we start? So, I have a very eclectic background, like super eclectic, and I always start that way because I just think people listen to what I've done and they go, hang on, how have you got this tapestry? But it's true, and I think it's actually just made me more balanced, if anything, and well-rounded. I'm not being big-headed when I say that, but I do think, I've not stuck to one sector through my whole career. I've moved around and brought different skills, and so I started in kind of leisure and entertainment, kind of managing cinemas, which is really like off the bat out of university kind of sort of stuff. Then I moved over to the National Space Centre and ran that, and then moved over to King Richard III Visitor Centre where they found the dead king, managed that. Then decided, you know what, I want to go into sport. I want to see what that's about. Sport's a huge sector. So I went to work for Swim England and ran national competitions for aquatics all around the country, which was great, loved it. I just felt like there was a lot more work to be done in sport. There's so much to do. So I decided to take a job running a climbing centre in Leicester called Social Climbing, and that really opened my eyes to a new sport because it's not really professionalised yet. There's a lot to it still to go, and there's a lot more kind of pathway to the sport that needs to be kind of developed. And similar to motorsport, I think there's a lot more to be done. And I came in as one of the few kind of female management of centres and saw huge kind of holes in the market. So set up like kids things, kind of kids pathway kind of programs, and helped to develop our athletes that worked at the centre as well, who were like Team GB climbers. So that kind of really gave me a good solid understanding of what was needed in smaller sports, I think. And then from that I went to work for the University of Leicester, just kind of managing like their commercial activity for sport, which was really kind of where I got my strategic eye in. And it was kind of, I really enjoyed the strategic side because it's where you can start to make proper changes for good. So for me, it was kind of like, okay, my contract's finished here, what do I do? So I set up my own business called The Mighty Venue People, and that's all about going to different places, different venues, whether it's arts, whether it's sport venues, whatever it is, and just helping them grow. And that has been very rewarding. Like it's kind of helping to professionalise the smaller venues like those climbing centres that really need that help in streamlining their offering for people. So it's what I can do with the skills that I've got, but it's very eclectic. So that's kind of my professional thing, but personally, like I'm a big one for like personal development. And I know you are, Rich, as well. We kind of clicked over that, I think, originally. And, I challenge myself every year to read as many books as possible. And I've just bought the book that you recommended to me, The Secret. So that's the next book on my list. Currently, I'm reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. So, yeah, it's I'm always pushing, I think. I'm always pushing to see what's next, see what the kind of conversations can be had to make better changes. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. But I suppose, Rich, what about you? Tell us about you.
No, I mean, that's amazing. I'll just pick up on a couple of things before going in about me. But first things first, when you turn around and say, and it's funny actually, because I think back to what my mum said to me, but you said about how you've done loads of different things and you can bring different skills and add them together to make this concoction of skills, which isn't taught at school. We're taught to go down and choose a specific subject, taught, this is the path, this leads to this course at university or whatever. And, being different and having all those skills you can bring together just makes you something incredible, something very different to the norm, which I think is such a special thing. And my mum said to me, she was like, look, Rich, you're constantly jumping from different things and it's making you unemployable. And I was like, no, it's completely the opposite. I am learning all these skills from different sectors, bringing them together and using them for good. Like, that was my opinion. And what you said about personal development, I think, like you said, that's where we clicked. And we literally we jumped on a call, didn't know where it was going to go, just meeting someone new. We were like, we need to do a podcast together. We got things to do, and I think personal development has been huge in my life, and I'm so grateful that I can recommend The Secret to you, because I think it's going to be so powerful for you. You'll read that and go, oh my gosh, there's the Netflix film of it as well, which is incredible. But personal development's been huge in my life. But yeah, so a little bit about me. Funnily enough, I've worked in the emergency services since I left school. So I started off in the police for my sins, and I then moved to the fire service and was a firefighter I still am a firefighter. I should put that out there. It's my full-time job as such. But I found business about 6 years ago. It was a challenging time in my life. Wanted something more. I've always had that drive in me, and being an athlete. I played cricket to a high level. I then played football at a relatively high level, and then started refereeing. And I'm a football referee at a very high level as well. But my thing is I've always wanted more. I've always wanted better. I've always wanted to help people, provide value, and it's something that in my day job and all the day jobs that I've had, I've always felt that I've never just rocked up and just done the bare minimum. And I seen my colleagues doing that, and it just grated on me. I couldn't stand it. It really annoyed me, the fact that people turn up and get paid the same, or if not more than me, to do the bare minimum. And I was like, no, we've always got to do the best we can possibly do. And it got to that stage in my life about 6 years ago where I just felt I needed something more. And funnily enough, and what The Secret is about is all about the law of attraction and just imagining things. And I was frustrated in my job. I wanted something more, and something more popped up in my Instagram. It was a conversation I had with someone who just reached out to me. Started having this conversation. All of a sudden, I got into network marketing. Now, network marketing is a very misunderstood industry. I absolutely love it for the fact that you're running your own business within a business. It is a personal development course in disguise. You just get paid for it rather than having to pay for it as such. And it is just fantastic for learning business in a kind of safe and interesting environment. And like with any business, it's not for everyone. It is a very challenging area, and a lot of people, one, get rejection because that's all part of life, that's part of business, and can't understand it. Two, maybe don't go about it the right way, don't learn the skills of selling and marketing, and I think, again, that puts a bad name on it, but it is there accessible for everyone. But what it did for me was that I learned a lot about, one, myself, and two, about business. So learning about myself, we're always constantly learning. My personal development, like you said, I'm constantly reading books, I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm doing courses. The amount of money I've spent on personal development courses, sales courses, marketing courses. In fact, I don't actually want to know how much I've spent, but you know, it's given me these incredible skills, which is unbelievable. And then from a business point of view, a lot of people will look at me and go, "Oh my God, Rich, you've done so many businesses in the past 6 years. Like, come on, mate. Like, this is too much." I know friends around me go, each week, "We don't know what you're doing." And I go, "That's okay, because the only person that needs to is me. Like, and as long as I know, then I'm happy." But for me, it's the skills I'm learning behind that, the people that I'm meeting. And I think that's where I've grown as a person. I've still got a lot of growing to go. Let's make that absolutely clear to everyone, is that I'm not the finished article. My ambition in life is just to get 1% better every single day. That is the goal. It's as simple as that. And hey, 1% better is starting a podcast with yourself, Hannah. But I think for me, obviously, at the moment, my passion's in motorsport. I absolutely love motorsport. I got into motorsport through esports, through sim racing. That got me into the motorsport industry. I've had so many different roles within here, creating sim racing centres. I've run an esports team. I've created a pathway from sim racing to real life racing. Sponsorship is a big one because I absolutely love sales, even though it's a really most people would think that's a really dirty word, but it's I've just found a new way to do sales, which is really exciting. And that's where I kind of lie at the moment, is sponsorship is my biggest thing, because I know that's a massive struggle for a lot of racing drivers. And essentially, the biggest problem that racing drivers have is that they might be very good on the track. They do all their training, they do all their work, but the problem I have is they can't bring the money in to actually get onto the track.
Yeah.
And I think those skills, and for me, I'm more of a coach, though I'm doing it myself and helping people get sponsorship. As a coach, I just think I need to help people learn those skills, so then they can go and do it themselves, not just rely on one person to do it for them. So that's a whistle stop tour on me and my life, which has been really sort of exciting. I mean, it's only really happened the last 6 years. Like, everything
Yeah.
else kind of it's just fallen into place. But obviously, we've called this podcast the Slipstream Entrepreneurs Podcast. Tell us a little bit more, Hannah, about what that means to you.
So obviously the slipstream element is for motorsport, and I think so. I'm a big motorsport nut in the sense of anything that moves with wheels or propellers or things like that, I'm pretty interested in. So for me, like, this is just, it's a great way to meet interesting people in the sports. It's a really great way of helping people in the sport to go further in their careers with the skills that I've got, whether it's just helping people to have a voice on this podcast, or to matchmake people, which is something I've done a lot with different sponsorships that I've helped kind of negotiate, we'll say. It's kind of helping to matchmake the right driver to the right business and vice versa. And you know all about that. It's a very intricate process, and it needs to be right for both parties. And I think having drivers on here to tell us their stories, who they are, is going to be a huge thing that a lot of places don't actually have. You know, that most people are interested in F1. Don't get me wrong, absolutely love F1. It's race week, can't wait. But there's so many different disciplines to motorsport that we need to shine a light on and give them their voice. So I think for me, I'm really excited to get into that and kind of help people have that voice. And I know that's something you're really passionate about, and you've got loads of contacts in that as well. So there's already a queue of people racking up to kind of get on, which is great. So yeah, I'm well up for this. I think it's such a cool concept.
I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head there, Hannah. And I think the biggest thing for me is racing. I mean, I speak to a lot of racing drivers. I'll put it from their point of view, and I'll put it from the other side of the business's point of view. But racing drivers, I speak to a lot of them. I'm going to be honest, a lot of them send me their pitch deck. And I look at it and go, what is the difference between your pitch deck and everyone else's? And yeah, it frustrates me because it's exactly the same. They just say how quick they are, what they've done, like who they are, how they're going to help people, hospitality logo, blah, 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 big content creation, great. give me a load of money. And I just cringe at it because I'm just like, come on, like everyone does the same thing. And the funny thing is, everyone does the same thing and everyone turns around and says it doesn't work. And they get frustrated. They're sending hundreds of thousands of emails saying that. And, it frustrates me. So that's where I'm very passionate, saying, look, let me help you to learn a way. And yes, it does involve sales and marketing, but let me help teach you how you can effectively reach out to the right people, speak to people, find out what they need, and actually give it to them. And I'm sure that will come out on this podcast if you listen. And I'm in the background, I'm designing a course as well to be able to really help racing drivers. But this is all about this podcast. From the business side of view, I find this. There's two sides to this. One, I want to get people involved in motorsport already who are not necessarily involved in just racing. So there's a lot of people out there. There's fitness coaches, there's mindset coaches, there's mechanics, there's the sales side of things, the sponsorship side of things. There's a whole like I said, the whole mechanical engineering background. I want to promote it all. And as you said, obviously everyone looks at F1. F1 is obviously the biggest motorsport event out there. And there's so many others that are big as well, but let's promote everything we can so there's a whole perception on what there is out there. And I think for me, the other side of it is actually helping business owners talk about their story, because I know a lot of racing drivers' attitude is, well, business owners, they've got money, they've got a lot of money, their business is doing well, they can obviously give me some. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, before you go asking for someone's money that they've worked hard at getting, let's hear about their story. Let's hear about their background, where they've come from to where they've got to, how they've got there, and see if you can take any value from that and apply that to your life. Because you've got to treat sponsorship and your driving career as a business. There's so many different parts to it. And if you can't do something, for instance, if you're not very good at getting sponsorship, then you're going to have to find someone to do it for you.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, that's going to cost you money to do. And that's exactly the same with running a business. Running a business, whatever business it is, there are going to be stuff you're not good at. So what do? You employ someone to go and do that for you, whether it's another agency or whether you bring staff in. So I think for me, there's going to be a lot of synergy between a lot of different things, which is going to be really, really exciting. But obviously we mentioned F1. We mentioned that it's race week. It's very, very exciting. Obviously Red Bull are looking very quick as per usual, but who would you say your favourite team is? And if it was a level playing field, who would win and why would you want them to win?
So we're talking about winning the championship.
Winning the championship. Your favourite team.
So favourite team, McLaren. Just from their heritage, for me, I don't know, they sit well with me. It's a feeling, I think. Like, I just get a feeling from McLaren. They make me fuzzy inside. It's, for me, McLaren. But I think, do you know, I think Alpine will be last.
Interesting.
That's my prediction. I think they'll be last. I think if it was a level playing field, though, I think Mercedes would go for it. Like, I really do. Like, if it was a level playing field, I think Mercedes would be top. But it's all to play for. This is the thing. First race of the year, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like we didn't see it all in testing. And I'm intrigued. I think the Red Bull's going to absolutely fly. I don't think we'll ever see it. In fact, just discount the first place. Because we're just never going to need to worry about that. Max will have it covered week in, week out.
It's funny you say that, actually, because I watched the first episode of the new series of Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
And how I only watched one and not the whole series yesterday, I do not know, but I've got some catching up to do, which is really exciting. But Max said something really funny. He said it to Perez, and he goes, I don't need to spend time with them because I'll see them all on track. And I was like, no, but you're wrong, Max. You don't see him on track. You're miles down the road. Like, you
so
never see anyone else.
Yeah, it's so true. What about you? Who's your favourite team? Who
So
do
I
you think would
actually love McLaren. Like you, I'm a huge McLaren fan. Even my hair colour says so. It is. But no, I think the thing for me is, and what I love about McLaren is their fan engagement, and I
Yeah.
think this is why they do so well. And obviously, I mean, I love Lando. Lando's a great driver. It was I was absolutely gutted. Like, I'd love a Lando Daniel Ricciardo pairing. That would be the
Oh,
pinnacle.
yeah.
But regardless of that, I think what they do, how they engage people, how they bring people in, they feel like a family.
Yeah.
And I think, the Red Bulls, they're so well known. Red Bull being such an iconic brand and has been for a long, long time. But there's and they are pure winners. They are out there to win it. Are they the best at gauging people? Maybe not. Mercedes, you either love them, or you hate them. They're a little bit Marmite. I think Toto. I absolutely love Toto Wolff, but I can understand people not liking him as much. And then you look further down the field and look at some of the other people. Like Haas to come on a long, long way. Obviously, a whole load of changes for them as such. But for me, obviously, Gunther, Drive to Survive is amazing as a person. Justin, he's not going to be out and about this year, but he's just an incredible individual. And I think Drive to Survive has helped massively. And I know it's something that gets mentioned quite a lot because a lot of fans have come. Called Drive to Survive fans at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And a lot of fans have come in because of that, the access that has been given to Netflix to show that. But has that been good for the industry?
Oh, I think so, hugely. I mean, anything that's going to shine a light on the human side of a sport is going to help. I mean, Netflix has had a huge surge of them now, promoting different sports. You've got Full Swing, you've got, I can't remember the tennis one, Swing Point, something like that. But there's a whole host of them now, and they're all making. I'm now a fan of golf. Didn't think I ever would be. Didn't think I want to now go and try golf. So it makes people like different sports, and it makes people see these kind of human sides. And I think motorsport has always been, as a child, I used to see F1 on Channel 4 every Sunday afternoon, and I'd fall asleep to it as a kid. Because it was a comforting sound that I've just kind of grown up with. But now, you have people who are just like, what is F1? I recently had a conversation with someone who I was talking to about F1, how much I love it, and he said to me, but what's the female equivalent of F1? And I just kind of thought, well, that's it. It's for both genders. There's so much more education to do on the sport. And it's kind of these programs, the conversations you see with the drivers like Lewis Hamilton talking about, women being involved, and just those little conversations need to be had more. And I think it needs to be educated more. And these programs are only going to do good. They're never going to do any harm to it, I think, unless someone says really something bad. But I don't see that ever happening. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the series. I think lockdown for me in 2020, I binged the first 2 series. It was a godsend. So yeah, I think more of it, please, Netflix. Absolutely. I'm in complete agreement. I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think it's something we're both very, very passionate about is that inclusivity within especially in sport in general, but especially in motorsport. We want to see it is a gender neutral, if that's the term to use. I don't know. This is new ground at the end of the day. Yeah, we'll go with that.
We'll go with that. It sounded good anyway. But we want to see that competitive edge. We know that the likes of football, you can't necessarily. The laws of the game state you can't, and rugby, other sports like that, you can't have that sort of. It'd just be unfair. It's not a level playing field. But within motorsport, it is as such. Or again, there's a lot of understanding that needs to be done. But why? How can we get more women to partake in the sport. I know there's a perception as well that needs to be changed. Back in the day, it was very much like it's mechanical, it's engineering, it's male.
Yeah.
Women don't do that as such. I think no, that's completely wrong. Let's encourage it. There's a whole generation coming through now. Let's encourage more ladies to get involved. And my thing is how can we do that? What do we need to do to be able to get more people involved on a regular basis and push that talent to the top? And that's the other thing for me, is pushing talent.
Yeah.
Regardless of your background, who you are, what you do, etc. I want to see talent at the top. If you've got raw natural talent, let's take that and put that on the biggest stages and go and see that. And again, sim racing's been massive for me. And I've actually I've recruited drivers through watching them sim race. And when I gave them those contracts, like, one, that was really exciting because it was something brand new, but it was like, that was really, really exciting, the fact that I've used talent identification through sim racing to lead them in motorsport. And hopefully more and more of that will come. But I'm conscious of the time, Hannah, and I've got an important question. I've got so many questions I want to ask. But one thing I really do want to ask is and we mentioned this before, but if there was one person in the world that you could spend an hour with having a chat, who would it be and why?
Yeah, we did speak about this earlier, and I popped to the loo and changed my mind about who I wanted to say.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So originally I said Alan Rickman, just because I think he is amazing. You can hang off his every word. I think he'd be a great salesman. However, I'm going to change it to Marcus Aurelius, the great kind of Stoic philosopher, because he wrote Meditations, which I am working my way through, navigating it my way through. And I just think, he's taught me a lot about just seizing the day, seizing those opportunities, and just living those moments, because, that's something I've struggled with in the past. So I think for me, to sit down with him and just to see how a Stoic truly lived, and if it was as harsh as he makes it out, that he would literally sleep on a bed of rocks to make sure he really felt the nice comfortable bed when he did sleep in it, sort of thing, just to see how that was, really. So I think that's who I'd go for. I think over some red wine, very Roman of him. But how about you, Rich? Who would you have an hour's conversation with?
You know what, it's just I changed my answer probably about 4 times in the space of about 5 minutes. And I'll go with who I finished off with. I went from, I'll just explain to the listeners where I started and went from. I went from Grant Cardone because I absolutely love learning about sales and stuff. I think he's an incredible human being. I think he's very misunderstood as well. Then went to a guy called Jim Rohn. If you don't know Jim Rohn, look him up because he will probably change your life. But he's a philosopher. No longer with us, but he was absolutely unbelievable. I learned about him through network marketing. He was an incredible influence on my life. But I think the last one I finished with is a guy called Geraint Jones. Again, learned about him through network marketing, and he has a lot of the teachings that Jim Rohn taught, but he's massive on the law of attraction, and even his sort of tagline is actually the name of his book. But it's called Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. And I have just lived with that. It's even my own WhatsApp tagline. I've actually used that from him. And I think about it every single day of saying change your mindset, change your life. And, just changing the little things. And like I said, 1% better every day. That's the goal. Just changing your mindset just slightly every day to get better and better and better. That for me is that one thing that I'm just yes. So to spend an hour, he's still alive. Hopefully one day we can get him on this podcast. That'd be amazing. Geraint, if you ever listen to this podcast, would like to get you on.
Want you on.
I'd like to get you on anyway. Hannah would like to meet you. I'd like to get you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, that for me, that's the one. But Hannah, 30 minutes has gone so quickly. But just I just want to put it out there to all the listeners right now. The sort of people that we've got coming up now. I've already got 10 guests booked in. Times have been booked in. We're ready to go. It'll be great getting them on, and we'll release an episode every week. Some racing drivers, and we're going to do a racing driver one week, and then a business person or an entrepreneur the next week, and rotate each week. But we came up with the dream. The dream person would like to get on this podcast.
Yep.
And I'd love anyone listening, if you can make this happen, we would love you forever. Honestly, you'll be an absolute hero to us if you can make this happen. But who did we both agree with who would like to get on this podcast?
Would be Susie Wolf. Yeah.
100%. And
unanimous,
why would you like
wasn't
to have Susie Wolf on this?
Yeah. Why would I?
Yeah.
I mean, she's trailblazing. It should have happened 60 years ago. This kind of getting some, get females onto the grid for F1, but she's really pushing now to kind of help that pathway, and I think that's what we all want to see. So to talk about something that we're all passionate about would be great.
I think she ticks both boxes, doesn't she? She's racing background, entrepreneur background, put it together. I mean, we both agreed. But the funny thing is, like, you asked me who would you like to have, and I said, I'd love to get Toto, but I think one person better than Toto would be his wife Susie, and you were just like, absolutely 100%. So if anyone can make or help us make that connection to Susie Wolf and get her on this podcast, it'll be absolutely incredible. But hey, Hannah, that's the first one done and out of the way. First of many. Thank you so much for your time. I cannot wait for our next episode. It's going to be absolutely epic. This journey is going to be incredible. But to finish off, thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah. Thanks, Rich.
Take care.
Bye.